And we're live. Welcome to Thursday Night Tradition, coming to you live from Edmonton, Alberta. Startup TNT headquarters, also known as Zach's Basement. Really excited about today because it's week 100, a century of TNT. We've been doing this for 100 weeks straight. Pretty incredible. A lot of really interesting things happening in the ecosystem right now. In fact, big news, Tech Edmonton is winding up their doors. I think unexpected news for many of us. Wasn't really expecting that to come out, but it just did. Meanwhile, lots of interesting things happening as well. And I'm here with Emily Craven and Anthea Sargent, two close friends of Startup TNT, who have some exciting news to share with us. So normally at Startup TNT, we do pitches with members of the community. They share their story, they talk what's going on, and we'll hang out our happy hour. Today, we're doing something slightly different. We've got two old friends. Emily is actually launching a really awesome project using her own company's technology to creatively tell the stories of the entrepreneurs from our ecosystem. And Anthea, one of the great entrepreneurs from our ecosystem, who has been a big part of our community from the beginning, is going to be one of the featured entrepreneurs. So we're here to learn a little about what's going on and see if we can get some more people from the community to join the fun. So the agenda today is a little different. We're going to play a fun little origin game that Emily has set up for us. We're going to then share our origin stories, and Emily's going to tell us about how more of you can get involved in this cool project to share your origin stories with the world. So, Emily, let me hand it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Emily Craven, Story City. As Zach mentioned, Edmonton startup founder here, a very long joiner, attendee of Startup TNT. We love Startup TNT. It's one of our favorite afternoon sessions ever. So I run a platform called Story City. So we're a app and a platform for location-based storytelling and content. So the idea is that each experience only opens if you're standing in the right location. So we want to transform streets into adventures and create new ways for people to interact with stories, innovative industries, and cities. As Zach said, we have recently teamed up with Startup TNT to figure out a better, more immersive way to promote the Edmonton startup ecosystem, which I am hoping will involve many origin stories from many different industries that we have startups in here in Edmonton. But we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. First, we're going to have a little bit of fun. And I did want to actually allow both Anthea and Brandon to introduce themselves before we dive into the trivia.
Yeah, Emily has a game set up for us. Okay, Anthea, please introduce yourself. How does, I think everyone already knows Anthea. She's everywhere. Tell us, for those of us that don't know Anthea, remind us who you are.
I feel that way, and then last time I came, I felt that way so strongly I didn't do the intro until you prompted me at the end of our update. So thank you for reminding me to introduce myself at the beginning this time. I'm Anthea Sargent. Our startup is 2S Water. We have developed a sensor that detects metals in water. It's a vital concern for major industry and environmental protection. I'm going to steal a bit of my intro time to announce that we made it as a finalist for the Colorado Mining Innovation Challenge, along with Copperstone Technologies, another Edmonton company. And if you look at the list, I think about half the companies who made it are Canadian companies. So
really?
Big shout out to all the Canadian companies who made it on there. I think we're doing great work in the mining industry.
Yeah,
so
cheers to that, Anthea. And the Copperstone. Yeah, we know some of the Copperstone guys. Craig Milne.
Craig is Craig made it in too. So awesome. So hopefully you'll see my sensor on his robot sometime soon.
Well, awesome. Congrats to Copperstone and congrats to your team at 2S Water. All right. And Brandon's here. Brandon, introduce yourself for those that don't know Brandon Kwong.
Hello, I'm Brandon Kwong. I am probably the person that you've seen on my face on the most number of newsletters, but spent the least amount of time with so far. I've just come back to the Edmonton startup community the beginning of this year. I've joined TNT as the Edmonton chief organizer, which has been an absolute blast and a whirlwind. So I've got to meet a ton of you already, which is fantastic. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I still need to meet this year. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, let's do it. Emily, what is the game that we're going to be playing today to get us all pumped up about origin stories?
So what we are playing is Startup Origin Trivia. So, you know, those of you who are watching this on other platforms, feel free to play at home. But at the moment, the way we're going to run this trivia is with our three lovely additional panelists here. And the idea is that we want the first person to be able to guess that company from their description. You get a point for every company that you guess, and then at the end those people will earn many kudos for being
bragging rights.
That's right, exactly. Exactly. Bragging rights, 100%. I'd like to take a leaf out of Zach's Startup TNT book by having you all find some interesting sounds to act as your buzzer. So whether it's a sound that you make up, or if you have something that makes a sound in your general vicinity. Zach, what would your buzzer be?
Let me give me a second here. How's that sound? That's just banging.
I mean, it may not be loud enough, Zach. I don't know.
Really?
I was gonna go for exactly the same option, banging my beverage. But I found a glass, so it sounds slightly different. I think.
Okay. All right. Test your buzzer there, Anthea. I don't know if I could tell the difference.
Oh, it's too much the same. Okay. I don't know if you know this, Emily, but my desk is not covered with noisemakers.
Disappointing. That's disappointing. Well, maybe we'll get you to yell your name then. That might be an easier one.
I thought we could just do a free for all, just like someone shout the answer. That's what I was thinking. But
yes, all right, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, so founded by two broke guys who saw all hotels were booked for a local design conference, so decided to offer air beds on their living room floor plus breakfast.
Airbnb.
Hey, there we go. Yeah. We're starting off easy. We're going to start off easy, and then it's slowly going to get more difficult.
I thought we were doing Edmonton companies. I was like, I don't know.
I was like, this sounds like Airbnb.
Origin stories in general, my friend.
Okay.
This is the point of the project, as you will hear at the end of this session, is collecting the Edmonton startup.
The Edmonton story should be as famous as that one.
Exactly, 100%. All right. So this company started as a rent by mail DVD service.
Netflix.
Quack.
Hey, beautiful.
Sorry.
Too good.
Point.
You want us to have buzzers, right? That's.
All right. During a casual chat, one founder said, "I wish these photos I'm sending to this girl would disappear." They wanted a place to share awkward selfies and funny photos with their friends. In their first blog post, they initially launched the app as Peekaboo, which tanked. But they then soon found out the reason why was because screenshots could be taken by other users, defeating the app's main purpose. Hence, it was rebuilt and rebranded and launched and went viral within a year. And by December, users were sending close to 15 million snaps a day.
Snapchat. Oh my God. Is that actually how
I just wanted to hear the story.
Is that a true origin story?
It is a true origin story, yes.
Peekaboo is a terrible name for that. I do not like. I feel like Snapchat was a much better branding choice.
It is. They rebranded, but then they also their solution was to essentially let people know that a user had taken a screenshot before it disappeared. So you were essentially like socially pressuring people to not do it. All right. This company was born when a multiplayer game company was on the precipice of failure. To survive, they took an in-house communications tool that they created and added in the playfulness of a cheeky UX UI. No.
Oh,
You can take a guess with Discord.
Oh, no to Discord, yes to Slack.
Ah!
Nice
Well
job.
done.
I feel like we were both in the same ballpark, though. Either one of us would have been right on that one.
100%.
Those are good ones.
All right. Wanting to rid the music industry of piracy led this founder to the idea of creating a platform where the user could listen to any music in the world at the short cost of advertisements in between songs. This platform is credited with being the cause of the first uptick in revenue for the music industry in 20 years, since Napster and digital music hit the scene.
Spotify.
I was going to guess Napster, but apparently that's the wrong answer.
Not
Go,
Spotify.
Anthea. 3 points. We've got Anthea at 3. We got Zach at 2. Brandon, you can come in from behind.
What was the answer to that one?
Well,
Spotify?
Brandon actually said Spotify at the same time as me, I think. So
Oh,
I think
Might
we
have
should
said
get that one.
Shopify. Can't
I
remember.
was thinking Napster. I'm stuck in like the 90s.
Yeah.
Napster's not really a business so much as a
Yeah,
theft.
Napster was a piracy scheme, right?
It
Yeah.
was indeed. It was indeed. All right. So when this founder was 3 years old, his mum bought him a World Book encyclopedia. World Book sent out stickers to the owners to paste in the pages for updating the encyclopedia. And the founder always joked that even as a kid, he was already revising the encyclopedia using those stickers. The original concept for the product was called Nupedia, and the intent behind it was to publish articles curated and written by professionals on varied topics and monetized via selling advertisement beside the entries. Nupedia had a bottleneck when it came to its peer-to-peer review process. The stringent process allowed no room for collaboration on content with the general public. This led the founders to integrate the functionalities of wiki software, which would enable anyone on the internet to edit these articles.
Did you use the product to identify this origin story?
Yeah. I feel like you'd be bad at the game Taboo. You've said the name at least 3 times.
The story of Wikipedia according to Wikipedia. I like it.
Thank you, Zach.
I've actually never looked up Wikipedia on Wikipedia. I feel like that's going to put me down a whole hole of
It's
inception.
like a
right now.
black hole that just sucks you in at that point if you look it up.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Much fun. All right. So we're into the last 5 here. We've got 5 points now. 5 points up for grabs. This startup grew out of the founders wanting a way to recreate the boutique fitness feel for new parents and time-pressed professionals who couldn't work around a studio schedule. Called an answer to the boutique fitness craze, it leverages technology to recreate the live studio's inspiration of a charismatic instructor and a sense of community with other people, while ultimately giving you the flexibility to work out of your own home and on your own terms. You'll find that there is a room for this in the Startup TNT Discord for anyone who has one of these systems.
Is it Peloton?
Yeah, I think it's Peloton.
A
Not
Peloton.
Swift. Nice.
They've just been bombarding with advertisements lately. I don't know if I'm in their target
Peloton?
market
Is
or
that the
what.
answer? Okay.
And
just
for those of you who join Startup TNT Discord later, there is a group who loves to cycle
You
during.
might meet some people on the Peloton at 8 p.m. on Startup TV.
Yeah.
2:30, if you stay late enough.
Can guarantee that the vibe in that Discord channel is better than any studio you've ever been to.
You might get free music accompaniment from Damien if you shows up.
Although we're still trying to working on how to monetize that at TNT. Peloton does that better than we do.
It's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. Bit more brainstorming. It's fine. All right. Launched in 1999, this startup was so ahead of its time that it was 3 years before iTunes, 7 years before the iPhone, and 8 years before the App Store. This founder kept asking the question, what if someone could identify the song using the actual sound of the music captured over a mobile phone? Then they would not need to know what the radio station was playing because they would actually identify the sound of the music itself. The execution of the idea meant building a sound pattern recognition technology, which was impossible during that time. Voice recognition technology from mobile phones had poor quality and lacked reliability. Additionally, the surround sound had to be cut out in order to improve clarity. They predicted that cell phones would eventually turn into smartphones and they would be able to take advantage of their advanced technology, only to be bought out by Apple in 2014.
I know that one and I can't remember their name.
That's wise founders.
Yeah. Is it? I'm thinking there's got to be one that predates them, but is it Shazam?
It is Shazam.
It is. They were OG.
Yeah.
Wow, good for
Good
them.
call, Brandon. I was not
So
even.
the whole idea was in 1999. It was before iTunes, before iPhone, before the App Store.
That's kind of high risk. I'm surprised they made it, because normally when you're that far ahead of the required technology, you don't make it instead of toughing it out. Good for them.
Well, and when they were bought out, I think it was only something like $400 million, like surprisingly small amount of money considering how advanced the technology would be.
Right.
And from what I understand, iTunes now uses that to determine things like music piracy and those kind of things.
Very interesting.
Yeah. All right, we're into the last three. The last three, everyone. This is good. You guys are holding up.
We've gotten all of them, right?
Managed to
We've
get
gotten all of them.
All right. This founder, fascinated by entrepreneurs like Bill Gates, was attracted to the tech boom in the 90s and decided to move to the US. He failed more than 8 times to get a visa before finally being approved and joining WebEx as a startup, only to become the corporate VP of engineering when it was acquired by Cisco in 2007. During this founder's freshman time at college, he used to take 10-hour train rides to visit his girlfriend. He hated those rides and used to think of ways he could visit her that maybe didn't involve traveling. Originally called SASB, the investors of this startup were skeptical it could work given the existing competition in the market, such as Skype and Google Hangouts. But despite the state of the market, this founder didn't deter from his vision to build a product that would make consumers happy. And it is now one of the most used conferencing software tools in the world.
Zoom?
Oh, baby, yes.
Oh, because it was before they were bought out by Microsoft. I thought they were actually produced in-house. That's surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something new today.
Zoom. He created Zoom because he wanted to talk to his girlfriend without traveling for 10 hours?
Yes. Well, that was the
I'm not seeing that. I think
of what became Zoom.
The name makes so much sense now. Okay, I get it.
Right. Okay, that does make sense.
Well, I mean, I agree. It's definitely better than Google Hangouts. And I like it
Or
really better than
Teams,
Microsoft.
they've done well with that technology. That was a good buy by Microsoft. So
Thank you, Zoom.
Thank you, Zoom. We're on Zoom right now. We're doing it.
I thought it was fitting. For the place where we were at.
Yeah.
All right.
He made it so you don't have to travel 10 hours by phone. Now we don't even have to travel like 10 blocks. We can just talk on Zoom, never leave our homes. Thanks.
All right, so now we have Anthea, 4 points, Zach, 4 points, Brandon, 1 point. 2 more to go.
What?
All right.
the heat is on. Wow.
Do this. These founders observed a huge demand for language education existed everywhere around the world, except the US. A majority of the language learners wanted to learn English, and back then, learning any language was expensive. Only the rich could afford to attend colleges and schools that offered foreign language classes or attend adult classes. There were language learning softwares like Rosetta Stone and Open English, but again, it required a spare $1,000 to attend. Accessibility and affordability were the core of this startup. During the launch of this 100% free app, users could sign up for a private beta, and during that time, the founder gave a TED talk on this idea, which resulted in millions of views, converting into 300,000 signups for their private beta launch. As such, even up to today, Duolingo has never spent any money.
We didn't get a chance to guess.
Bus is
1 point
Duolingo.
family.
I was going to guess Duolingo. I was waiting for you to finish.
Sorry, so sorry, guys. I thought I'd removed all of the names from my. Damn.
Well, I had that one. Just for the record, I had that one.
That was the toughest one yet. That's
All right. Okay, so this is the final one. I don't know. So this is probably the most tough one. I don't know if anyone will.
I'm just going to wait until the end, and then you might just give us the answer.
you might just say it. Who knows?
Ruining trivia. That's what's happening, right? All right. These founders spearheaded an effort to offer 3 Stanford computer courses for free online. The classes were interactive with short video lectures, discussion forums, quizzes, and homework assignments that were graded by other students using a rubric provided by professors. Even though students didn't earn academic credit for it, the courses were a hit. With no marketing, each of these courses had more than 100,000 learners. It was a wake-up call about the demand for this type of education around the world. In the space of a few months, these founders persuaded the universities of Princeton, Penn, and Michigan to sign on. Though this startup had no monetization plan, investors jumped on board. Higher education costs too much, and it's not available to enough people, said a lead investor at the time. Eventually, the startup began charging $30 to $70 to students who wanted course completion certificates. And that was when they started making revenue.
Coursera.
Coursera.
It is Coursera.
Nice. Was that a slight dig at investors that you threw in there? It's like, it doesn't matter if there's no monetization plan. You should just invest.
Nice.
Where are those investors? That's
They're all
actually, I did once see a pitch where a company came up and said, we don't know how we're going to monetize it. I think it was Honest Store.
Yeah, I've seen Honest Store pitch that way.
Yeah.
And I think they're still figuring out the monetization plan. Great company. So
great company. Yeah, really. Again,
you can do it here in Edmonton.
Strong social mission. So it can work, but I wouldn't espouse it as the first go-to tactic.
I mean, in saying that, Coursera did come out of Stanford with Princeton, Penn, and Michigan coming on board. So like some heavy hitters, some big names. Probably drove. It was the we are investing in the team, not the monetization, is probably what drove that investment there.
Well, awesome trivia game, Emily. So
Zach,
what do we do next year?
5 points, winner, chicken dinner, all the kudos.
It was a tie. It was a 3-way tie. It was a Canadian finish with a 3-way tie.
So that I wanted to segue into some more Edmontonian origin stories. Zach, I hear you have even put together a slide around your origin story, please.
Yeah, I'm excited. My origin story is a little bit longer. It's okay. I'll go through it quickly. You had nice, short, snappy origin story.
It's fine.
Mine's a little bit longer. It's okay. I'm really excited about it. Let's see how everybody else is. This is the origin of Startup TNT. Let me make sure I got my display settings correctly here. All right, are you guys ready for this? You ready to see this? The origin of Startup TNT?
Whoop.
Okay, let me bring you back to 2003, McGill University. This was a random picture I found of a great bar at McGill called Gertz. That's not me in the picture, but I did kind of look like that when I was a university student. I even used to wear my sweater like that. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But Gertz is the campus bar at McGill, and every single Thursday they had a party called Thursday Night Tradition, TNT. Stole the name directly from them. Okay, fast forward a few more years, I'm still at McGill. I was at McGill for a long time. Now I'm a graduate student. I'm a little more sophisticated. I go to the graduate student bar. My professor used to take us here every single Friday. He would buy the beers for everyone. We'd hang out here for like 6, 8, 10 hours, longer than we were in the laboratory. We were sophisticated though. We didn't have smoking jackets or anything, but we were smart. We talked about intelligent things. We were academics. And I loved these experiences. Then bring us to Edmonton, 2019. Ecosystem doesn't feel great. Stories like this are coming out of the Edmonton ecosystem 2 years ago. No collaboration. People aren't happy. I was personally at like the most, unrelated to this, most depressed moment of my entire life. It's not funny, it's serious. I had been working as an entrepreneur for 2 years without pay and was completely fed up, was completely disconnected from everyone. I was like, how do I get back to those fun days back at Thompson House, back at Gertz? I went to this event called Tech Edmonton, Founders and Funders, located at Work Nicer Beaver House. It was just a community event. I was hanging out there. I ran into an old friend, none other than Mr. Rob Oming, founder of Polar Park Brewing, whose beer I'm drinking right now. This is him at his bar. He said, Zach, you got to come check out this bar. We're about to open. It's going to be great. I said, Rob, what if you and me started hosting a fun happy hour for entrepreneurs at your bar? He's like, I love it, man. I went on vacation. I came back. In April, the Edmonton Startup Slack channel had been launched. Ecos launched this Slack channel. Everybody's hanging out on Slack talking. Bradley's on Slack giving people Bradley claps. They're still doing it today. I said on this channel, hey, what if we started a happy hour? And I just like every single Thursday, we just started hanging out. I think Nathan Beck said, I'm in, Zach. When's it started? And I said, well, I'm turning 35 in a little while. I've got a little more time here. I said to my wife, how about for my 35th birthday party, I throw a surprise party for myself at a bar and I go out drinking with all my friends for the next year. She said, I give you my blessing, Zach, you can go. And here it was. We launched it May 16th, 2019 on my 35th birthday. I even gave a speech. Look at all those fun people there. I had rules. Rule number 3 was my favorite. If you share a business card, you must chug your beer. I even kicked the party off by challenging someone in the audience to say, hey, who wants to exchange business cards and chug a beer with me right now? My good friend Tim Gorley stepped up to the plate. We did it. We kicked the party off. And here we are 100 weeks later. We're doing a lot more than just having fun at a bar. We've invested $1.9 million into 11 great companies, including one of our guests, Anthea Sargent, 2S Water. We're doing really fun projects like the one we're doing with Story City to tell, to showcase the cool things that are happening in our ecosystem. And I just hope that the future is as simple and fun as the past. That's my lovely wife, Karen Tang, with one of our investors, Todd Carson, just having some fun at the bar. There's Chris LaRolle from Uproot hanging out with our kids at the bar at one of our events. So I really look forward to doing it in person again soon. And thanks so much. That's the origin of Startup TNT.
I think the most important part of that story is that Karen is a saint. Wow, you did well there. You did well.
Thanks so much. This is live television, broadcast to the entire world. So I second that. Karen is a saint, and I should be a better husband. So appreciate it.
It's official on the record now. I'm a witness, Karen. I heard him say it.
You might be watching upstairs as we speak, to be honest.
I love that the origin story was supplemented with like pictures and statistics and like, wow.
You start TNT style. Yeah, got to throw in the actual pitch too, right?
Beautiful. I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Zach. Appreciate your origin story. Anthea.
I feel like I haven't brought it to the table now because I do not have a slideshow presentation. This is not. So one day I was in the river valley swimming in the North Saskatchewan when I was bitten by a radioactive fish. And that is how, no, okay, that's a different origin story. I'm sorry. But I told Emily I was going to say that. And then I said, maybe I shouldn't, because then I think that makes me the Aquaman of this superhero team. And I'm not sure that that's where I want to be here. No, our origin story is much more scientific, much less glamorous. I do not have a story of people contaminated by water who I loved that I had to go out and defend. Thank heavens, all my associates are happy they weren't poisoned by lead or arsenic or anything like that. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs who've been heavily invested in the oil and gas industry. You may or may not know this as Albertans, but it hasn't been doing the best lately, the oil and gas industry. So there was, a certain willingness to start a new business. And I have always had an aspiration to leave a legacy of environmental protection. And being involved in the oil and gas industry didn't really leave me feeling like I was doing my part on that front. So I went to my co-founder, fearing that our business that we were currently running which was heavily in the oil and gas industry, was at risk. And I said, we should start another business. Wouldn't that be fun? And fool that he is, he said, yeah, that sounds fun. So we actually went about it in a very kind of scientific manner. I'm a big proponent lately that business should be more scientific. There should be more hypotheses and tests and scientific theories that drive us. And Tony and I used a very similar method. We each decided on one metric that we absolutely had to have in our new business. Mine was an environmental mission. I absolutely had to have a positive impact on the world. Tony's was monthly recurring revenue, because it takes two kinds to start a business. And those actually turned out to be two really great metrics to found a business off. So we then went looking for problems that fit within this metric. We found a couple. From there, we wanted a couple parameters. We wanted a real, identifiable, verifiable problem that customers would tell us they had. Hand in hand with that, we needed to be able to think we could solve it. So we needed a solution. So we went out looking for that niche, and water treatment and the identification of contaminants in water came up again and again. Originally, we planned out what Nate told us at the very beginning was, you're trying to design the holy grail of water treatment, because we wanted to do everything. We do metals now, but we really wanted to do the whole suite of potential parameters that municipalities care about, which is more than 105 different parameters. It was a big vision. And I really stand behind that. In fact, there's a great story of Google's took one of these moonshots at one point. They dramatically failed on it. And in their dramatic failure, they created AdWords, one of their most revenue generating products. So absolutely big fan of shooting as high as you can for the stars, because then you usually land on a viable product. And that's what happened for us as well. We realized that in the monitoring suite, there was a big gap where metals existed. And we wanted to tackle the hardest thing first. So that's what we went for. We went straight for that, the metal monitoring. We drove to every municipality in the near area. We'd call them up and say, hey, would you buy a sensor that detects metals in water? And they said the same thing, because they're municipalities. They'd say, I will never buy anything from you. I don't care what you're selling. But do you want to come see my water treatment facility? And we'd say, yes, we do want to come see your water treatment facility. And we get an hour of their time dedicated. And, at the beginning, they'd reiterate, we're never buying anything from you. But about halfway through, they'd be like, oh, okay, I get that. Maybe we do want that. And by the end, they'd be like, could you drive upstream and sell one to the community upstream? Because I want to know when something hits their water treatment plant, because that's going to give me 4 hours notice versus you giving me, immediate notice. So that's when we knew we had something. And as for our solution, we read scientific papers until we found somebody doing in the lab what we wanted to do. So at that point, we had our scientific paper, we had what we felt was sufficient market validation, and we took our paper down to the U of A and said, does anyone want to help us commercialize this? And Al Meldrum, a great professor, stepped up and said, yeah, that actually sounds pretty fun. The ironic twist is, for those who know me well, my bachelor's degree was really, really useful for this project. It was Japanese language and arts. And my favorite professor was married to Dr. Al Meldrum. Yukari Sensei was his wife. So we've been embroiled with this family in more ways than we knew for a long time. That was it. We were launched once we had a scientific team that we felt could support us. We had that market validation, and away we went. Now, to a certain degree, it didn't matter because we pivoted markets after then, but I'm a really big fan of validating that market before you go forward. And for those out there wanting to start a business, what are those metrics that you really care about that are absolute deal breakers? Find those out before you start your business, because, now that we're kind of reaching the end, every day that I look at the environmental impact that we're going to have, I feel really good about what we're doing, and I'm inspired to keep doing it. So find the metrics that are deal breakers for you and build your business around them. That's me. That's my origin story.
Going through the hard times and the good.
Exactly.
That is a really cool, I love this origin story. I don't think I ever actually got the full story, or if you told me, I forgot half of it. That's amazing. And look at you today. You just recently made your first purchase orders. Now you're going to that Colorado mining innovation competition. Really awesome stuff, Anthea.
Actually, things are going really well for us. I have 5 units on hand, and I have 9 I could place if we had the money to place them. So we're out fundraising right now, trying to close that gap. It's a great place to be. Very exciting, and we could not have made it where we are without Startup TNT. So we haven't forgotten.
No, the way to a man's
heart.
heart.
We're on the sponsor list. So Emily, I feel like you can't just expose our origin stories here without sharing the origin of Story City with us as well.
I detect by your accent the origin of your story is from outside of Edmonton.
It is. You are correct. I use this accent to charm as many people as I can. That's why I moved away from my homeland, Australia, because I couldn't charm people with my accent in Australia. But over here, Over here, I can say things like g'day and mate, and it doesn't sound like I'm trying too hard. So if you ever have walked away from a conversation with me and you're like, wow, I don't know what she said, but I loved her accent, that happens often, and I use that to my advantage, just so you're all aware. Trigger warning as part of that. So I mean, for me, I have always been a very, very creative person, but also a very technologically minded person. So I actually have a degree in astrophysics. And the reason why I went into astrophysics was because I was obsessed with Star Trek as a kid. That was all my mum would put on the television, and she wouldn't allow me to watch cartoons. And so it was either be bored or like Star Trek. And so I liked Star Trek. And that was essentially what informed me wanting to get into astronomy and astrophysics. And so I was very, very competitive in high school. I was incredibly good at maths, science, physics, chemistry. But I was also a very big book nerd. I would read close to 3 or 4 books a week. And I was reading them so quickly that I decided that I wanted to start writing my own. And I actually started writing my own book when I was 12, when I found out one of my favorite authors at the time had started writing when she was 13, 14. And I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And it was over the course of that 5 years that I actually wrote my first 80,000 word novel. And so I'd always really loved stories and storytelling. But because I was smart, I was told by all of my friends and family and teachers that, I couldn't throw that away and I had to, use that in my degree. And so that was how I ended up going into astrophysics, right? And though I was very, very good at it, I realized that I hated it with the passion of 1,000 fiery suns. It was one of those things that was very hard, and I did it very well, and I was at the top of my class, but I was just immensely unhappy. And and so even though I have my degree, I got the piece of paper to do it. I realized that plan A had not worked out really well. And so maybe I should go with plan B, which was actually the thing that I really loved, which was storytelling. And it was probably around about that time that I realized that what I loved about Star Trek was not the science. Sorry, Anthea. But what it was the drama. It was a soap opera in space. It was the drama, it was the characters, it was people coming together for a common cause. And that was what I really, really loved. And so that was when I set out to build a career in publishing and writing. And so it was around about that time that Amazon Kindle had really started to take off. And so you could, as an independent author, actually make a career out of publishing. And so I actually have been in the publishing realm now for around about 10 years. I worked for one of Australia's largest writer centers as the go-to person for independent publishing. I used to be a digital producer for an organization called the Institute of the Future of the Book, where we used to dream up and run experiments in publishing and technology and interactive storytelling. And so it was throughout this time that I kind of realized I lived in this town, which was the size of Edmonton. It was actually Australia's festival city. It was literally like the sister city of Edmonton, whereas Adelaide got to plus 50 degrees in summer, Edmonton got to minus 40 degrees in winter. And similar size cities, you could get across them in the same amount of time. And there were no opportunities for you to build a career in this city. You had to move away to those bigger cities to be able to have that career. And I thought, this is ridiculous. This is a city that thrives on festivals. It's meant to be like an epicenter for arts and culture. And as an emerging creator, you can't even build a career here. What's going on? And so I created Story City because I wanted to create my own opportunities in my own city. And so I wanted to be a part of stories rather than telling them. And I convinced a couple of my writing friends to create these real life choose your own adventures. And back then, you know, the App Store was only getting, you know, it was getting started. I kind of hadn't bought my first smartphone yet. I still had one of those slider phones where you could get on the internet, but like it wasn't the best. But there was QR codes which you could scan, and they would take you to places on the internet. And normally those would be used for marketing or for you know, getting discounts or whatever. And I was like, no, I want to use this to tell stories. This is going to be great fun. And so we put QR codes on posters, zip tied them to poles, and ran these real life choose your own adventures. And so one of them, the one that I wrote, was a alien invasion of our city, which involved a spaceship that looked like a pair of clown shoes and an upturned bucket that shot rainbow lasers. It was comedy, just so everyone is aware. I realized that it was a fairly ridiculous premise. Whereas we had others that were, you know, secret spy story. There was another one where all of the gargoyles and facades in the city were coming to life and chasing you. And what we really discovered was that not only was this something we were interested in, but we had hundreds of people sign up on Facebook, back when Facebook used to work for these kind of things, signed up and were interested in doing the experience. And we realized that it was actually an awesome way to discover our city. We came across pieces of street art that were in an alleyway where if you looked up 2 or 3 stories, there was thousands of matchbox cars that someone had glued to the side of a building. There was a little tiny doorway that was at the bottom of a store, and when you walked past it, it said, oh, look, a tiny store, let's go in and buy something. And all of these things I would never have noticed if we hadn't actually gone looking for interesting places to set our stories. And from there, it surprisingly snowballed. I was always thought that I was going to be a writer who was sitting in their tower, who would write things on my own, and then I would have, you know, like fans across the world that I would just write novels for. But what took off was Story City. So we kept having municipalities reach out to us being like, we really like what you did. Can you do that for us? We've got a budget of $20,000, $30,000. We'd like you to run this for us in our city. And it was one of those things where, despite what I thought was going to happen and where I thought my career was going to go, that it created this whole new opportunity, not only for myself, but over 100 different creators across Australia before we moved it here to Edmonton. And it's a really deep passion of mine to make sure that, like, as a creator, you can build a career wherever you want to. You can build it in a place like Edmonton. You can build it in you know, in a tiny town in BC. And not only that, but that people who have been underrepresented and not been able to tell their stories, that they also have the chance to be able to do that with easy to use tools. And so that's how Story City came into being.
That's an awesome story, Emily. Wow, I've not gotten the full story. There's a lot of details there I did not know about you. I did not realize you're like an amazing writer that writes awesome stories about alien invasions. Yeah. I didn't realize that you have a degree in astrophysics and that you're so smart. Your teachers told you that you'd be wasting your life as a writer. That seems like
it's true. That's they said you're too smart for art. And I felt like that was some sort of bumper sticker that I should rip up and burn. So
but Emily, I think like we're a little bit over time. This has been awesome. Tell us a little bit more about the project you're doing right now on telling stories with the Edmonton ecosystem, with funding that you have from the Edmonton Regional Innovation Network, and, you know, support from Startup TNT to make this happen. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So I am really excited about the community that we found here when we moved to Edmonton. Like, Startup TNT was a really strong part of that community, and they introduced us to this amazing breadth of businesses that we have here in this ecosystem. And while in 2019 things were dire, over the past couple of years we've really seen this ecosystem blossom. And when you look at the main ways that people normally encourage talent in a city, encourage company generation for companies to move to a new city, is that generally people will be like, oh, we have this tax incentive, or we have, you know, this university, and we are the center for X, Y, and Z. But what a lot of people don't take advantage of is talking about like the city itself and why they're here and why they set up their company here and why this is a great place to live and to raise their kids. And so we were like, okay, like there must be a better way to promote the Edmonton startup ecosystem. And what we do at Story City is we are always looking for ways to do that in an immersive experience. So how can we show off this broad range of innovative companies, but how can we also show off Edmonton at the same time? And so what we have been given funding from the eRIN for, and that we're partnering with Startup TNT to do, is a project that we're calling Starting Up Edmonton, where we're inviting companies from across the ecosystem. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care what level you're at. You could be at the very start and have raised no money, all the way up to your, you know, like DriveWise or Jobbers that have raised like $60 million, right? And we want to be able to tell your origin stories. So as part of the project, we are going to be interviewing around 7 startups about their origin stories. One of those startups is going to be Anthea from 2S Water, which we're very excited about. Thank you for coming here and getting the ball rolling here, Anthea. But we have a bunch of other places for other startups that we want to not only showcase your origin stories, but actually create an immersive experience where we put those origin stories in a location that really means something to you within Edmonton, so that people can use the Story City app to not only tour around and get to know Edmonton and the cool places here, but get to know all of the really cool origin stories and startups that we have here in this city. So Mr. Zach Storms has put together a wonderfully short, that will only take 5 to 10 minutes of your time form, where we ask you guys to give us a brief introduction to yourself, your origin story for your company. Maybe let us know if you have spoken about your company before so we can watch your video. And then we are going to be selecting from this wonderful community 7 startups that we're going to feature origin stories for.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Love that description, Emily. We'll be putting the form in our newsletter. We'll be sharing it on social. It'll be on the Story City website, I'm sure, as well. We can probably get in the eRIN newsletter. We'll be sharing it broadly over the next little while. Encourage lots of you to let us know if you'd like to participate. We're looking for 7 companies participate in total. Really happy to have Anthea and 2S Water participating. We're hoping that this is a project that gets some additional funding, and we can tell a lot more stories about Edmonton, over the next year or so. But we're starting off with 7, so help us get it started. And with that, we're going to end this session. We're going to head over to Discord Happy Hour. I do want to give one last final plug for Startup TNT. Next Investment Summit is going to be happening this spring. Applications are going live on our website tomorrow. Really excited about it. Want to see broad participation. We got a lot of investors already lined up to join us. Love to see a lot more money going into our local startup ecosystem. So join us for that. And of course, we'll be here every single Thursday at Startup TNT. So see you around town. Peace out.
Thank you,